avyaktavyaktayaः sarvaha prabhavantyah ragame ratyagame praliyante tatraiva vyaktasanyake. As day approaches, all manifestations proceed from the unmanifested. At the coming of night, they merge in that which is called the unmanifested. Now, in verses 18 and 19, he speaks of this endless cycle of creation and destruction that goes on in the world. In this verse, he speaks of the individual, what's happening at the individual level. And in the next verse, he speaks of the macrocosmic level. The whole universe goes through this same procedure of creation and dissolution. So what is he saying? There are basically two terms that he uses, avyakta and vyakta. What is avyakta? Avyakta means unmanifest, which is the state of deep sleeps where you only vasanas exist. The vasanas have not manifested as thought, desire and action. So we all go through the deep sleep state. So what he's saying is, as day approaches, some of us at dawn we wake up, some of us at midday we wake up, but at some time during the day you wake up and there is this manifestation. So vyakta means not just waking, it includes the dream state. Because in the dream state there is partial manifestation of your vasanas. In the waking state there is complete manifestation of your vasanas. So the avyakta is the deep sleep state that you go through. Vyakta is the waking and dream states that you go through. So what he's saying is that all living beings go through these three states of consciousness. As day approaches, they all come into being, they proceed from the unmanifest, and at the coming of night, all of them sooner or later go back into the avyakta state, into the unmanifested state. And in between, during the unmanifest state, only your vasanas remain. The vasanas have to remain because it is only by this that you can explain how you wake up exactly the same person you were when you went to sleep. It is impossible that a highly noble, refined person goes to sleep and wakes up as a gangster. It's not possible that a musician goes to sleep and wakes up as a nuclear physicist and vice versa. Thank God for that. You wake up exactly the same person. And what happens to your personality in the interim period? The whole thing goes back into the unmanifest state, the vasana state. And as day approaches, when the manifestation starts, partially in the dream and completely in the waking state, you come alive. This cycle goes on endlessly till all the fuel is exhausted, till all vasanas are exhausted. So you must understand, all of us need to understand that this, you will be subjected to birth and death, avyakta, vyakta, this cycle of dream, deep sleep, waking, until somehow or the other you are able to eradicate all your vasanas. Until then, you are committed to this. So there is no escape from your vasanas, desires. Sometime you have to face up to your vasanas and desires. What is appalling is the fact that the percentage of your vasanas that have manifested even in your mind, not as action, even as mere thoughts, is only is a small percentage of the bulk of your vasanas, most of which are dormant. So through the spiritual practices, what happens is that, one, you bring them into manifestation. Number two, even as they are dormant, as you pick up a higher ideal, as you gain the the concept of divinity, that which is beyond the world, and you work towards it through these spiritual practices, you're able to negate the force of these vasanas without even bringing them into the manifestation. So every step that you take in the spiritual path gets rid of a bulk of your vasanas. The lower vasanas go. The worst vasanas in you go first. Then even the finer, the good vasanas go. And when all your vasanas are exhausted, you come to your real state, which is the state of Atman, Brahman. To be able to achieve that is a horrendous exercise. It's not so easy. Elsewhere in the Gita he says, Kshipram hi manushe loke siddhir bhavati karmaja. He says, in the world to gain success is very easy, Kshipram. You can get it easily. And yet now all of us are struggling, working 17 hours a day, 18 hours a day. For what? Just making a living. If you're finding this difficult enough, which Krishna refers to as very easily, very quickly, you gain success in the world. But he concedes that spiritual success, getting to that state of realization, is a difficult procedure. So what we understand by this is you have to fire on all fronts. You can't do part-time pursuit of spirituality. It has to be full-time. When you say full-time, then does this mean you give up your vocations and your businesses and all that and go sit in an ashram? No. It's very possible to do it as you're pursuing, as you're continuing your normal daily routine. All that you have to do is impregnate the thought of the higher. Because remember, the theme in this entire chapter is, as you think, so you become, not as you act. So you can do what you like. Just think of Atman. Then you might wonder, isn't that a hypocritical way of living? No. All that you're doing is, with the thought of the higher, as the thought of the higher gains root in your mind, then all the futile, senseless activities will automatically drop and you will begin to do the things that are really meaningful for you. This is the thing. So, think of Atman through every experience. Even when somebody's cell phone rings, think of that which enables you to hear the sound. And then you're okay. If you think of the sound as a cell phone sound, it irritates you. Think of it, there, see? Somebody is helping us to think of Atman. Every time a cell phone rings, say, what a wonderful reminder of Atman, then you won't get irritated. And when you don't get irritated, the irritation stops, and you're able to focus. So just as a musician, a classical musician, aligns the concentration with that one note sa, while he's coming up with different compositions set to different ragas and different beats. The alignment is one, activity myriad. And what comes out of you then is fantastic, soul-stirring music. But if you take an untrained voice like the rest of us, you start at one note, you end somewhere else, and in between you're all over the place. And the other people around you want to say, stop. What comes out of you is noise, not music. Similarly, when a dancer dances on stage, she has to manipulate the space available to her. She has to align herself with the music, with her steps, with the expressions on her face, with her hand movements, everything. But in and through all that she's doing, she never loses her concentration on the vertical axis. If she loses that, she falls down. Similarly, all of us, if we want to live life aesthetically, if you want to live a life of beauty and grandeur, you have to align yourself with the vertical axis, which is Atman. And then do whatever you want to do. With the body, perceive and act. With the mind, feel emotions. With the intellect, think myriad thoughts. But never lose sight of that one alignment, Atman. If you lose sight of that, you lose your balance in the world. If you lose sight of that, you create chaos and confusion around you. So between today and tomorrow, let's take a look at the take-home points. What are the take-home points for us? Number one, that we are gifted with the gross and subtle intellect. For heaven's sake, use it. Exercise it. Second, look beyond the obvious. This is what they call as jnana chakshu, the third eye opening. Third, that you and I go through the waking, dream, and deep sleep states of consciousness. That you are neither the waker, nor the dreamer, nor the deep sleeper. What you are is that which pervades the waking, dream, and deep sleep. Yat svapna jagara sushuptama veti nityam. That which is constantly aware of the three states of consciousness. Then we spoke of desire. That desire springs from a sense of emptiness you feel within, and the fact that this emptiness is imaginary. And if your whole life is based on something that is imaginary, how can you achieve success or happiness? And the last thing we took a look at was the formula for happiness, and the verses that we saw spoke of the totality vision, the eons, the 4 ages, yugas that we go through, and how to break free from this cycle of birth and death.